TI 9. I thank you so much for joining me today after the long weekend. We are hoping for still some people to come in, but we don't want to wait too long, so we're going to start now. I will just share my screen. Yes, so very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Vanessa Wijngaarden. I'm a senior research associate with the University of Johannesburg and a senior professional trainer for the qualitative data analysis program Atlas TI 9. So we will, over the next 3 days, we will be working with the program in a practical fashion. So that means that I hope you have been able to install the program onto your own computer. And I have shared some handouts and some example projects with you that will help you along the way. To give you an idea of what we'll be doing in the next 3 days is today we will have a little bit of an introduction into computer-assisted qualitative data analysis so that you have the background from how to approach the program and how to work with it when you're doing research or maybe you're supervising someone who is doing research. And I will give you a little bit of background on how to how to frame this kind of work. Then we'll go into practice and we will start with setting up a project and data segmentation and an introduction to coding, which is one of the most important parts of this, one of the most important parts of the software. In day 2, we will go into some advanced coding strategies and the creation of an effective coding system. So this is the place where with Atlas TI, most people have most problems and where also people drop out and don't find their way anymore. So this is what we'll be focusing upon, on how you get an effective coding system going so that you can actually analyze your research project with Atlas TI. The next step is to look at after coding how you will get now the information that you want to get out, how you ask your data questions after you have coded and get the answers that you are looking for. And we'll be looking at how to write reflections on the research questions that you're trying to answer as well, how you can do that in the program. The last day, we will look more into data exploration and analysis. So that is some visualizations and working with the analysis tools. Now, where time allows, I will try to discuss with you any special features that you might be using, and of course, any of your questions. So especially if we're still with a small group of people, it will be easier to answer questions of people. Now, at the moment, normally I have a setup with 2 screens. At the moment, I have a setup with 1 screen. So that means that in case there is something wrong with that you can't understand me well, I cannot see the chat while I'm giving this presentation or I'm sharing this specific screen at the moment. So if there's anything that is not working, please give me a shout. Otherwise, while we're working with the program, it will be possible for me to monitor the chat at the same time, and it will be really easy because I can look at your questions in the chat and actually integrate that into what I'm telling. So we'll start with a little bit of an introduction into computer-assisted qualitative data analysis, and I will be telling something about myself. Now, for practical aspects, we'll be working with Atlas TI 9 for Windows. That version is the version that UJ officially uses and that you should have access to. There is a new Atlas TI version 22 for Windows. That if you don't have access to version 9 for any reason, so if you really can't install it on your computer, I've sent you also the link towards the trial version of Atlas TI 22. So alternatively, you would be able to use that because there is a lot of similarity. So the program the layout is almost the same as in Atlas TI 9. It just has some extra features. So the best thing is to be on Atlas TI 9 so that we're all on the same page and that it looks exactly the same. But in case you're really having problems, Atlas TI 22, the trial version, will also be working. Now, a little bit about myself. I've been doing research mainly in East Africa with Maasai people, and I'm using a lot of multimedia. So this is how I actually got to use Atlas TI, because in Atlas TI, it's possible to combine all sorts of different media like text, audio, video, and to have them in one database and to analyze everything in an integrated way. So the research that I've been doing has been about tourism interactions in Tanzania, and yeah, I worked in close cooperation with the local people there, also in capturing the data and in analyzing the data. At the moment, I'm doing a research project on human-animal communication, a specific way of human-animal communication, intuitive interspecies communication. Yeah, I continue to use Atlas TI as a huge database to work with. Now, what you can do in Atlas TI is you can bring multiple data sources together. So maybe your field notes, also surveys that you might have done, audio recordings of focus groups and of interviews, video recordings, images. You can all put them together in the one database to analyze them in an integrated way. And this is one of the advantages of Atlas TI. With that, Atlas TI is like other qualitative data analysis programs like MaxQDA and NVivo. And it's different from quantitative data analysis programs like SPSS. So what it focuses on is on non-numerical data, so qualitative data. Now, I've been teaching Atlas TI in Europe, in South America, in Africa for probably over 7 years now. Yeah, as a senior professional trainer, as a certified trainer for Atlas TI. So I'm also doing consultancies and I'm teaching at universities worldwide. Now, as I said, the goal of Atlas TI is to work with non-numerical data. So it's a qualitative research analysis tool. And that means that generally the things that are studied are things in their natural settings. So it's facilitating an interpretation of phenomena, and often that is in terms of the meanings that people bring to them. So the characteristics are, hey, working most of the time in a natural setting. You as a researcher are a key instrument of the data collection, which means that reflexivity is also very important because no researcher is independent or objective. Often there are multiple methods that are being brought together. So maybe there is some surveys, maybe there's some focus groups, maybe there's some ethnographic observation, and this is all brought together. Now, there's often very complex reasoning going on to make sense of this data through deductive as well as inductive approaches. And we will talk about how you use Atlas TI in both these kind of approaches. Often the focus is on the meanings that participants give to things, and there's an emergent design. So that means that along the way, you're figuring out the next step of how you're going to analyze the data. There might be somewhat of a blueprint, but it's not set into stone. So you actually have space to be creative and to think about how you want to do your next step. Now, often the idea is that you want to give a holistic account. So you want to look at something in its complexity, in its wholeness. Now, this kind of qualitative data analysis ideally looks something like this. There are maybe all sorts of data like photos and text and diagrams. And then with a highlighter, you will highlight the text that you think is important, and then make annotations about why this is important, and maybe use different colors for different kind of codings. So you can do that on paper, and it has been done on paper for a very long time. This looks very neat, but what can happen is that it can end into something like this, because it's not so easy to analyze this very rich, detailed, and contextual data. It can give you a lot of information because all this detail and richness and context are actually very important for getting a deep insight and an insightful an insightful answer to your research question. But the problem is that it can also be very messy. It can be really time consuming, and it's hard to be consistent in what you are doing. So people tend to drown in their data. It is too much information in too many different ways coming to them, and to organize that is not easy. Now, this is how there was a call for computer assisted qualitative data analysis, to have all this done not maybe on paper with a pen and a highlighter and a marker, but that it's actually possible um, to work with this in an integrated way. Um, all the different data to have them together digitally. So this is a screenshot of Atlas TI, and this is, here you see the layout of the program, the interface, what it looks like, and we'll be going into that. But what you can see already is that it is actually, and I don't have a pointer here at the moment, but what you can see is that you actually have that kind of data on paper, but now on the screen with a margin area where you can make annotations. So it sort of resembles the way in which you work with pen and paper and with highlighting with markers. But you can not only highlight text, but you can also highlight maybe pieces of videos, as you see here, or of audios, as you see here in the interview. And then you can have annotations in the margin area that show you why these pieces of data, these segments of data are of importance. Now, far from imposing a specific analytic structure or approach, this qualitative data analysis software actually gives you a variety of functions and features, which you can then intentionally use or maybe ignore. That means that the computer doesn't dictate the analysis. So this was a worry in the beginning when computer programs started to be used for qualitative data analysis, that people were worried like, yeah, but will the computer not dictate what I find? Well, what we're showing here is that with Atlas DI, you're actually able to, you have like a palette of all sorts of different functions that you can use. And many of them you won't use. You will choose your way of approaching this specific research subject. So everything remains in the hands of the researcher, and that means the researcher is also responsible for what comes out of the analysis. A little bit about the history of Atlas TI. It was developed in the 1980s in Germany as a research project, and then there was a commercial version, the first one in 93, and from there it has been growing. So we have a whole set of tools, including Atlas TI Mobile, which is an app which you can use on Android or on the iPad, and which is used for when you're going into the field, that you can collect data and maybe already start coding and analyzing a bit in the field. Now, another part is the Atlas TI Cloud or Atlas TI Web, which is a function that resembles the desktop version that we're working with today, but it doesn't have the analysis tools. What it is really strong in is that you can use it in the cloud, on the internet, and you can work in teams and work together also in real time at the same time on a research project on the analysis of it. Now, Atlas TI 22 was launched in 2022. That is the last version. And UJ is still on Atlas TI 9. So from Atlas TI 9 to 22, there's several expansions that are there. And Atlas TI is also constantly being revised and there are constant new features that are coming in. So sometimes you will also come into there might be a bug because something is just new and has just been changed. And I will also show you in the program how to deal with those things. Now, it's one of the front runners of qualitative data analysis, and it has been used by university worldwide. Uh, Yale, Oxford, the big universities are using Atlas TI, but also outside the academic world by the World Health Organization or UNDP, Oxfam Novib, the BBC, and even Boeing and NASA are using Atlas TI to deal with, information. Now, what is it exactly? It is software that helps to make your analysis process more organized, more transparent, more integrated, and more grounded in evidence. So you have a lot of ways to organize your data. You can record what you are doing in your analysis step, can bring all the different types of data together, and have direct access to your data. Like if you're in higher levels of the analysis and you might be building a theory or something like that, you can directly link to the data, maybe the way in which something was said in an interview, and you can directly listen to that or read that or watch that. So there is this direct link with the underground data that you collected and that you base your conclusions upon is still there, and you can access that very quickly. Now, there is a triangulation of data possible that you collect through multiple methods, as we said, and this includes interviews, focus groups, maybe you have field notes and written observations that you did in the field, but also archival research and literature reviews. Photo voice, photo elicitation methods, ethnographic videos or observational videos, and also geodata, Twitter data, Evernote data. So you have a large amount of possibilities for bringing different types of information together. Now, what then do you do with this information? Well, you can categorize and interlink data segments and then extract data segments from all this variety and volume of source documents so that you can find maybe themes in your data or patterns or certain meanings. As I said, it is an integrated workspace. And with analysis tools, you can ask your data questions. So you have different possibilities to view your data and to report findings as well. Different reports and different visualizations that you can create from your data. Now, the program helps you to have a speedier and deeper analysis that is data based and that actually gives opportunities for better reflection as you are the principal research tool in this kind of qualitative data. With Atlas TI, we work at a data level and at a conceptual level. So it's like you're having a conversation with the data, a back and forth. And what you see here is that on the left top, we will start today with segmenting the data. That means like cutting it up into pieces so that you are able to start the coding and the analysis. Now, the second step, coding, is one of the most important things in Atlas TI. And what we'll be looking at different coding strategies and auto coding. Yeah, things also that you can use if you want to go through a research project more quickly. And when you're working actually maybe yeah with machine translation. So we will be working with that. Then there is the opportunity to diagram and model through networks, through different analysis tools. And this is something we will be looking at in the second and the third day. So this normally comes after your coding process. Now, then finally, there is the writing part. And this writing part is actually running through your whole process. So there is writing in terms of comments and in terms of memos. Of course, the writing becomes more important as the process moves along. So that is why it's put after the diagramming and modeling. Writing is the most important part, but you will already start writing in the earlier stages. Also, maybe when you're segmenting your data and when you're coding your data, that just increases during the diagramming and modeling. And this writing you can then finally use maybe in your report or in your dissertation, in your thesis. All right, so that was a little bit of an introduction to what the program actually, the background of the program, what it actually does, what it actually is. And I'm very happy that I can see your chat again now to see if there are any questions at all. So, yeah, if there's any question from anyone, feel welcome to write it in the chat. And yeah, and I will try to answer any question that you have at this point. What you can do if you don't have any questions, you can already make sure that you have Atlas TI9 on your computer and that you're ready to start it up, because then we're going to have, yeah, the more practical part of this session. We're going to go into working with the program. All right. Lily, I see you have a question. Do you want to use the mic to ask it? That's fine.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering, because I have a bit of a challenge. I have the ITLS TI9 downloaded on my laptop, but I came to the office today and I haven't been able to download it on the PC. So I've opened it up on the web. So at least for today, could I work on it on the web?
Okay. The web version of Atlas TI, it really does look different.
Okay.
So the principles are the same. So what you will hear about how to segment data and how to do the coding, the theoretical part of it is the same.
Okay.
But where you're clicking looks really different. So if you have the opportunity to look at it with us on the desktop version, I would say that would be a lot better.
Okay. I'll do that. Thank you very much.
All
Thanks.
right. All
Thanks.
right. All right. So if we don't have any further questions, then I'm going to open up the program and then we're going to have a look at what it looks like. And what we will do is that I will start with an example project that you actually also have, and we will work with it together later on. But I will now just, yeah, I will just show it to you so that you get a little bit of an idea of of the interface. And after that, we will set up a project together. So for now, feel free to still just watch. I'm just going to share another part of the screen. Yes. So this is the interface of Atlas TI 9. And I've opened up a project here. It's called the Children and Happiness Online Sample Project. So this is a sample project that we'll be using to work with. Finally, you will, of course, work with your own data, but this is as an example of what Atlas TI looks like. Now, what I want to walk you through here is the most important part of the interface so that you know how to orientate yourself. So you see in the middle we have the title. There's some details about when this project was created, when it was last edited, who's now using it, and what kind of license I am on here. Now, what you will see is that the program sort of has a Windows feel to it. So over the last couple of years, Atlas TI has been reshaped and it now looks very familiar to a lot of people because it sort of looks like how Word, for example, looks, huh? The Office features. So what you will see is that on the top here, you have a series of tabs. And normally you start off on the Home tab. And this is also where you will be going if you get lost at all. Now, the nice thing is that if you hover over any of the tabs or any of the buttons, what will happen is a short explanation will show up. So if you have forgotten what something is for, you can just hover over it and you will get the explanation. Now, you're normally on the Home tab, it looks like this. And what we have here is on the top left corner, we have an opportunity to add documents. Now, it's normally on the top left corner that you have the opportunity to add anything new into Atlas TI. So you'll get used to that. If you want to add anything new, you will go to the top left corner and you can add documents or add other entities. Now, what are these documents and what are these entities in Atlas TI? Now, I will explain that using the ribbon up here with the icons referring to the different managers. And you will see this also in your handout that I have given you, a handout of the most important menu options in Atlas TI. Now, we will start with the documents. And what are documents? Documents are pieces of data. So they are maybe text data, audio data, video data, pictures, there can be transcripts, and so any data that you have, it's going to be stored under documents. So the documents are your data, whether it is multimedia or whether it's text or anything else. And the color and the icon that are there for data are blue. So this is a blue piece of paper, and that is by that you can recognize, okay, these are documents. This is my data. Now, the second object of Atlas TI that is very important are quotations. Now, what are quotations? Quotations are segments of data, so they're pieces of data. So the document is the whole, the whole document that you have, and quotations, and you see it, they have this little quotation marks and the orange color to them. Those are segments of data. Now, the third object in Atlas CI are codes. And codes are green and they have this little square as an icon, and you can recognize them by that. Now, what are codes? Codes are labels or conceptualizations. So they are the tags, the labels, short to the point. We'll talk about it, how to form them, that you put on your data. It's saying something, you create them. So it's saying something about why this data is important to you, to your research project. Then the fourth object in Atlas TI are memos, and they have this little notebook in like, yeah, it's sort of like a pinkish color. So memos are the place where you write. So maybe this is your research diary. This is the answers to your research questions. This is your to-do list, your analytic narratives, anything that you write in terms of larger pieces of text will be a memo. Then we have networks, and networks are used for visualizations. For example, when you're doing theory building. So it shows how different objects, different parts of Atlas of your project are linked together. So how they are standing in relation to each other. And the way they relate to each other is through the links. So we have code-to-code links or hyperlinks. And this is where you start building relationships. And you can get different versions or perspectives on a specific situation through these links. So those are the most important objects in Atlas TI, and every one of these objects have their own manager. So if I click here, um, I would get into the document manager and I would see all my documents, and we'll go into that in a bit. Now, on the left-hand side, what you see here is what we call the navigator. And through this navigator, you can access anything that is in the project. And you see again those small icons and the colors that I explained to you before. The documents are all here, all the codes are here, the memos, the networks, and you can access them on this side. So this navigator is staying here also when the ribbon up here changes. This navigator will stay here and you will be able to access anything that you want. If you press the little arrow to the left of the icon, it will actually open up. So in this case, I have in this project 31 documents in here. And if I press the little arrow, I will see all of them and I will be able to access all of those documents. If I click on the little arrow again, it will close up. And what I can see is I also have 89 codes in this project. So this is a project that it has already data, it has already been coded, and I can find my codes here, 89 of them. But I could also access my memos here. Like as I said, a memo for every research question, the research diary memo, maybe a to-do list, they are all here. And then there are 5 networks as well that have been created, and we'll be look at them later on. What is important to know now is that on this left-hand side, your navigator is here, and you will be able to access any objects from here. Now, in case you have a small screen, sometimes it makes sense to actually take the navigator out so that you have more space maybe for your document. So you can use the little X that I used and click it away. And then if you need it again, if you want it back again, from the Home tab, you have a button Navigator. And when you click on that, it will pop back up. So you can close it with the little X here. And when you need it again, from the Home tab, click on Navigator and it will show up again. Now, in case needed, you can actually set the navigator to a certain type. So you can see that up here as well. You can, for example, only look at documents or only look at codes. So now you have your code list here on the left-hand side, which can be really handy when you're actually coding. And everything is adjustable. So if you need some more space, you can drag and drop the place where you want the navigator to end. Normally it's set to the Project Explorer. And that is all the objects are here together. All right, so that is the navigator. So we have all the objects of the project here. And when you go down here, you see the groups of documents and the groups of codes and the groups of memos and the groups of networks also represented. So you will be able also to access these here. We'll be looking at how to create those groups later on and what their function is. Now, then one button that I haven't shown you yet here on the home ribbon is the comment button. Now, what are comments? comments are attached to a specific object and they help you to know maybe what that object is about, or if there is anything important about that specific object that you want to remember. Now, in this case, this comment up here is for the whole project. So this is the place where you would write what this project is about. Because maybe you have created the project, you have put in some data, and you're going to do the analysis, but there might be time in between when you have been working on the project, and then a couple of weeks you're doing something else, and then when you come back to it, you want to have a clear description of what this project is about and what the goal of this project is. So that is what you would do here in the comments. If I click on that, there's actually a large comment written here already that is about this project and what this project is for. This screen that has opened up here, I can close it here. So it is this tab which has opened up here, and with the little X, I can close it again and I come back to my home space. So those are the most important objects of an Atlas TI project. Each have a color, each have an icon, each have a manager so that you know what you're doing. And when we are now going to work with the program, I will show you different ways of doing different things. So there's often in Atlas TI, there's different ways to get to something, and you can mark and think of what is the easiest and best way for you. The last thing that I would like to show you now about this interface is that on the left-hand side, we have a File tab here. That is also just like in Word. This is the place where you are opening up new projects. You can also take a snapshot of a project. So that is to save it, actually a certain version of it. Um, in Atlas TI, it is the case that you have all your data in there, and then you actually build a layer on top of this data with the coding that you're doing and the diagramming that you're doing, but your data itself stays intact. So what is happening is that Atlas TI actually creates a library for you with all your data in there. And then there is a layer on top of that of your analysis that you are doing. Now, if you create a snapshot of the program, you will create a version of only that layer, which works in connection with your library. So that snapshot will work on this computer that you're saving it on if your data is also there. Now, in case you want to create a backup that is on another, that you will be able to use on another computer, or you want to save everything on a hard drive, what you would do is export the project. So this means that it is packed into a bundle, and you have and your library, so all your data, and that layer that Atlas TI creates together, so you will be able to use this on any computer. So the snapshot is only on the computer that you're working on if the library is available already, and it gives you the opportunity to go back maybe a version if you've made some major changes in your analysis, and you want to turn back and say, okay, no, I don't want to go this way, I want to do it in a different way. You can go back to that old version. um, Export is used to create maybe a backup that you can use on another computer if your computer breaks down, or maybe to export it to another person to actually look into your project, and it also includes the data. Now, merging is used when you're doing team projects, and you can also close the program here. So that is the File tab. Now, very quickly, when we have, besides the Home tab on the other side, we have Search and Code, which we will look into today. We have some analysis tools under Analyze. We got several import and export options. we have some tools that we won't be working with much because they're more used in the advanced courses, and we have a help button. And this help button is very, very useful because you can look into the quick tour, which is actually giving you an overview of the main features of Atlas TI. You can report a problem. For example, when there is a bug or something is not working for you, you can create a problem report. And there's very excellent assistance actually at Atlas TI. People will get back to you generally within the day to help solve your problem. You can also contact support directly, send a suggestion. Atlas TI, as I said, it is very much a very alive program, which is also listening to its users. So if there's anything that you're missing or anything that you would want to be different, you can actually write a message, and there is the possibility that in the next version you will actually see it there. It has happened more than once with myself and people that I've worked with, that we feel like, oh, there's this would be really great if we would have this, and actually it's being programmed into the program when we're asking for that. Can also go to the Atlas TI website, which is where there's a repository of a lot of information. Now, through the social media, especially on YouTube, you can also find videos that can help you if you're, for example, wanting to work with a specific analysis tool or a specific a specific a part of Atlas TI, and you can find information on how to do that. So this is the place where you would go when you need some help. In the open help itself, you will get into the whole manual of Atlas TI, which is huge, but you can find any specific thing that you are needing. So you'll be able to to sort through that. All right. So that is a big overview of the interface. Now, and what we're going to do now, I will give you the opportunity to ask some short questions as well. Let's do that first. And then we're going to open up and start your own project. So if there are any questions about this, then do write in the chat. Okay. Seems there are no questions at this point. All right, so then we're going to start with setting up a project. I will close this here so that you will be able to watch with me how we can set up a project. So if you're opening Atlas TI, let me just share this here. So when you're opening Atlas TI, so you can click on the icon on your computer and open the program up. What you will first get is like a welcome screen. And in this welcome screen, like for me, there are already a lot of projects here because I have a lot of projects on my computer, so they will show up here. For you, this might be empty. There's also some news and some resources, maybe the quick tour, the user manual, and some sample projects, some tutorials that you can use, which you can also find on YouTube. Now, what we want to look at now is we want to create a new project. So on the left-hand side, you have the button New Project. And when you click on this button, I'm just making sure, you will be able to give the project a name. So in this case, maybe we say this is the test project April 19. And it also gives you immediately already the opportunity to write a comment on the project, because normally when you're creating a project, you know what this project is for, what you're going to do with it. So this is where we can formalize that and tell what we're doing with this project. So for example, you would be able to say, okay, this project is for to answer this and this research question of this and this maybe larger project that is being worked on for this and this course, or for for this and this period of time. So this is where you can give all the details of what this project is about, what this project is for. When you've done that, you can click create. And what happens now is that Atlas TI is giving you a whole new project. So the title comes up here, as we've seen before, and you see the ribbon is there, and the navigator is here, and everything is still empty. So documents 0, codes 0, memos 0, and no networks, because this is a whole new empty project. All right, so does that work for everyone to create a new project? Do you have any problems at all? If there's something that you're missing or something that's not working for you, do let me know, and I will try to answer everything that you need. It's no problem if you want me to repeat something, because it's nice if everyone's up to speed so that you're actually able to move into the next steps as well. All right, so I assume that for everyone that has worked, you've been able to create a new project. And create a comment in order to keep focused, to have an awareness of what you are doing. The next step would be that we're going to add and import or load the project's documents. That means we want to get our data into the Atlas TI project. Now, as I said, on the top left corner, you can normally add new things. And in this case, we want to add documents. Now, there are different ways to do this. Let me just move this a little bit. Yeah. So you have the opportunity when you click on the little arrow to add files individually or to add whole folder contents. That means that if you have your data stored somewhere in a certain folder, you can add everything at once, which saves you a lot of work. Let us have a look at how that goes. So if I add a file, I can just go into my computer and I will be able to anywhere to choose. Let me see if this, yeah, you can see this. So to choose any kind of document that I might want to add. So in this case, maybe I want to add one of the handouts. So one of the handouts that I gave you of the generic main menu options, I selected that. That's a PDF. If I open it up, what you will see is that the document has now been uploaded into Atlas TI. You will be able to see it and to work with it. Now, when I go back to my home tab, because what happens now that I open this document, a document extra tabs blue line here, extra tabs for documents has opened up with all the document functions here, and we will go into that later. If I go back into my home tab, I see my familiar ribbon again, and I will be able to add more documents. So maybe I want to add a whole folder, and I can go to that folder that I want to add. Let's see. Not, I could add actually the whole folder of handouts. When I select the folder, 6 documents were added automatically. So you see also how quick that goes and that the number here goes up. So I now have 7 documents in this project, and I can scroll through all of them here and open them up when I click on them. Now, through this way, you are able to add all sorts of documents, Word documents, PDFs, and for the PDFs, actually, Atlas TI, when they are made and scanned in a good way, Atlas TI is able to recognize the text for you. But also pictures or videos, you can add them all through here. Now, in case you have very big video or audio files, it sometimes doesn't make sense to add them to Atlas TI because they will take a lot of space on your computer. Because remember what happens if I add these documents, what happens is that Atlas TI makes a copy of that document and places it in the library. Now, if you have big videos and now Atlas TI makes a copy of the big video and adds that to the library, sometimes you can run out of space on your hard drive because you actually don't want to have all those big video files twice on your computer. So what you can do then is that you can use this function of adding a linked video or a linked audio. And that means that what Atlas TI will do is not copy that document and place it in the library, but create a link to it. This means that you shouldn't move that video or that audio file after it has been linked, because then Atlas TI will not be able to find it. So if you use the linked option, the importance of that is that you do not move the files that are linked, because if you do, then afterwards you have to tell Atlas TI where did you move it to it, because otherwise it can't find it. So the best way is to just add the folder contents or add the files. So Atlas TI is managing your library, nothing can get lost. It works really well. But in case you have space difficulties and you're working with large video files or large audio files, you can actually link them. And you see that also there is a description on how to repair the links in case something goes wrong. All right. I see a question in the chat. Okay, it has already been resolved. The project has been created. Thank you. That's very great. Okay. So I hope that works for you, that you can add some files to your project or add some all different types of documents to it. Now, what I would also like to show you is how to add a geo document. So this is a location document that can be added. I open that up here. And what you see is when I add a geo document is that you see a map of the world. Now you can into that map and find any place that is of importance to you that you want to add. So maybe you have a fieldwork location here along the river, and you could actually add that location to Atlas TI. Now it's also possible to search with an address, because sometimes with scrolling it's difficult to find the right place in the whole world. So what you can do is you can use the button here, query an address. And when I do that, I get the opportunity to search here. So maybe I want to look for the University of Johannesburg. When I query that address, immediately I get a list of addresses for the University of Johannesburg. So we have something on Ditton Avenue, we have the Kingsway campus, something in Doornfontein. I can choose the one that I want. So in this case, I want to be in the Kingsway campus. I can zoom it in or out a little bit. And then I can actually add this location as a document. So it's possible to create a snapshot of it as well, that it will stay exactly in this format. And you see here the APK campus and the way to get there. So this can be a very useful way of also dealing with data, for example, when you have different fieldwork locations. And it doesn't only work with addresses, but also with maybe interesting points of locations, like I don't know, Statue of Liberty I was thinking about. If I would query that address, or it's not really an address, but if I would look for that place, I would also be able to here in the geo document find the Statue of Liberty, the National Monument in New York, and zoom out and see everything around it, and maybe create a snapshot of that place if I want to. Now, if I close these documents all here now, and I can close them one by clicking the cross, but I can also use the little arrow up here and close all of them at the same time. So you can close the documents with the little cross, or you can close all of them, or maybe only keep the one that you have open at the moment. And I will also close this Address Explorer here. And what I find now is that in my navigator, I can see I've now added several documents. I've added all those PDFs. So document 127. Then I have a geo document, document 8. And then I have the 2 snapshots, which are also saved as documents here. So if I double click on any of those, you will see them. So this is the APK Campus one, and this is the Statue of Liberty one. So that is the way to create new documents. In the Home tab, you can add the documents on the left corner. So that is the place to add all your data. Are there any questions about this? How to add the data? Now, I showed you, yes, how to create geo documents. Okay, so I can repeat. On the left-hand side, under Add Documents, you have a little arrow, and that gives you several options. So you can add files and add folder contents, but there's also the last option is to create a new geo document. So under the Home tab, Add Documents, click on the little arrow, and you can on the bottom add a new geo document. And from there you can zoom in to any place or query an address on the top. Is that working for you, Jumoke?
Yes. Yes. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Okay. All right. So when you want to close it, just on this little arrow here. So I showed you already on the left-hand side, you can access the documents that you have created, but you can also access them through the document manager. Let me move the navigator a little bit to the side, and we're going to open up the document manager. So that is on your Home tab. You have that blue paper icon, which is your documents, which is all your data. And from here, you can open up the manager. So when I click on that, I will see the whole list of documents that I have added. So they're all here. And it will also say where this document was saved. So, and what kind of media it was. So this is, these are all PDFs and they've been saved in the library because I added them. Now then I have some geo documents, and the geo snapshots are actually saved as images in the library. And if I maybe had a video document that I also linked, then it would show up here and it would say video, and the location, it would say maybe the exact location that it is on the computer. Unless I imported it, then it will say library. Now, for every single one of these documents, if I click on it, I get the preview here. So on the left-hand side, and I can also write a comment. So for example, this is the APK campus. So I will be able to say, okay, this is the APK campus where I did the first set of interviews, for example. So now I know what this object is for. The comment will tell me something about this object. Maybe you have uploaded a whole bunch of interviews into Atlas TI right now. And then at the comment, you could say something about maybe at what date or where this interview was done, even something about the circumstances, the atmosphere was like this, or these and these people were present, so that you have that information, maybe if it influences what comes out of the interview. What I've also done sometimes, and you can open up the comments here with the text to get into a full text editor. So you see you get now the typing space for your comment here, and my comment was already APK Campus where I did the first interviews. Now if I have this comment and it's linked to maybe a certain interview, I could also insert a picture. And this is what I've been doing. Sometimes if I've been doing interviews with people, I can add their picture here so that I have an idea of who in the community this was. I can link the names in my mind with the photos, because of course, this is a place where you are working for yourself. Of course, when you're going to maybe share this data and you're going to write a report, you have to often make sure, unless you've made other arrangements, that you anonymize what you've been doing. But while you're working and you have your data protected, also not out there on the internet or on the cloud, but you have it protected with a password on your own system, then you're actually able to work with it in that way. So you can type any kind of text, even if you want to make it in certain colors, it's all possible to to make it look nice. And you can even insert pictures or automatically insert a time and date stamp when you're writing this. Now, once you have created the comment, when you close it here, it will ask you, okay, do I want to save this comment? And I can say yes. And when the comment has been created and saved, you see a little tiny yellow sticky note that is now on top of this top of this icon here, so that you know, okay, this one has a comment, just to signify that there's a comment here. Now, another important action that you can do here is that you can create document groups. Now, this is a way to organize your documents. And maybe you want to organize them according to anything that actually is meaningful from your analysis point of view. So types of organization could be that you want to organize your interviews according to gender or according to age groups. You say, okay, these are the interviews from men, and these are the interviews that I got from women or from non-binary people. You might want to organize them according to the type of documents that they are. So you want to put all the PDFs in a group and then all the images in a group. You might want to organize them according to location, or ethnicity or time period. Um, so these groups, they can sometimes be types of data, groups of subjects, or groups in your population of literature. Um, yeah, alternatively, you can also code for these groups, which what we will look into later. But generally, how we're using Atlas CI later on when we're asking our data questions is that we can now compare maybe these different groups. So after the data has been coded, you might want to look at what people of a certain age group, maybe youngsters, have said about a certain subject as compared about what elders have said about a certain subject. And if you've created groups here in your document manager, you're able to make those comparisons. Now, so in practice, how do you create such a group? It's very easy. You can just drag and drop the documents that you want in a certain group to the left-hand side to the group space here. I will show that to you. For example, if I want to create a group with this handout, I can say, okay, I drag and drop it into the document groups. It will ask me, okay, what is the name of this document group? Now, these are handouts, and I want to put them all together. And I can create this group. Now, this group has been created, handouts, and there's one document in it. Now, maybe I have another handout here, and some more here. So I can select more at the same time by holding down the control button. And then I can just drag and drop them into the group. And what will happen here now is that it says behind this document that it has been created, like it has been put into the group handout. Now, maybe I also want to create a group for images. So I have those image documents here that were geo documents, but they're actually snapshots, so they're images. So let me select only these two and drag and drop them to the left-hand side, and I will say, okay, document group name, images, maybe geo images. Create the group. You see that I now have a group geo images with 2 documents in it. Now, maybe I also want to create a group for all the PDFs. So I can select all these PDFs, drag and drop them to the left-hand side and say, these are my PDFs. And you see now that it's actually possible also for documents to be in 2 groups at the same time. That's no problem at all. So you are able to maybe create groups based on the type of documents, and then also maybe on the location that they come from, and then maybe also on the gender. And you will then be able later on to compare all these different groups with each other. Now, in case, for example, I have this handout of generic menu options, I have it now twice. It's double in here. So if I want to delete one of these documents, I can just select it and press delete here. And this document will be taken out. It will then automatically, of course, also be taken out of the groups. So you see that these numbers of the groups have also been updated. In case there are more intricate things that I want to do within these document groups, I can open the group manager. So I go one step deeper. We are now in the document manager, and I can open the group manager as well. When I open that, I will see a list of all of my groups, my geo images, my handouts, my PDFs, the size that they are in and who created them. When I click any of them, I am able to see what is in the group on the left-hand side and what is not in the group on the right-hand side. And in case there are any documents that I want to put into the group, I can select them and press the arrow to take them into the group. And the number will rise up. Or if I don't want something into the group, I can select it here and press the arrow and take it out. And you see the number goes down again. If I'm done, I can click on the little X and I can close it. So that is the way you are able to organize your data into different groups. And then later on, you can use those groups as a filter. So you can look at certain questions and only look at those documents. So in this case, like for example, the handouts, maybe I want to look only at the data that is in the handouts. When I double click on it, then Atlas CI creates a filter. And that means that I'm only looking at those documents, those 5 documents in this group now. And to show that we're in a filter, there is this yellow line up here. So we're only looking at those documents here now. And when I want to close the filter, I can press the little X here. So double click to focus, only look into this filter and close again here. All right. So is that working for everyone? Are you able to create groups with your own data? You've uploaded some documents. Are you now able to put them into a group and give that group a name and maybe put some more documents in or take some documents out? Or are there any questions about this? Okay, so then while you may be formulating still a question, I want to tell you one of the features then of this document manager, that after you've maybe created groups, you are able to create a report, and those are normally on the right hand side. You can create a report in Excel or just as a Word document. You can say, okay, which items, maybe you want to create a filter first and then which items you want in there. If you want the grouping to be shown, and then the types of content that you want in there. So in this case, we don't have any quotations or codes yet, but this would be the place where you can create a report of all your documents and groups. And you can then create it, save it as a PDF or as a Word file and include any comments or content or linked quotations. And that is good for sharing, for example, with supervisors or with colleagues. All right. Now, if there's no questions about the documents and the document groups, we'll go into the next step and we'll go into data segmentation. So let us open up an existing project. So what you're going to do now, we've created our own project, but now we're going to work with one of the example projects. And I've sent to you the example projects by email together with the handouts. So if you have them available, what you will do is you will go to the File tab and you will go to New. Because every time in Atlas TI, when you import a project. So you import an existing project that is a project bundle with all the data and that layer that Atlas TI creates. You have to first get the library onto your computer. So you will start with new by importing the project. Once you have imported the project once, after that you can just open it with open because the library is now established, everything is there, so it can just open the project. But the first time you have to do it with new. So I'll show you again how to get there. We're in home, we're going to the file tab, and then we say new. And then you have the option to create a new project. That is what we just did before. We created our own new project, or to import a project. And that's what we're going to do now because we're going to import a sample project. Now, the projects you can import, they can be from all different, they can be a web project or from an older version of Windows and Mac, maybe from the Atlas TI mobile that I spoke about before, from the iPod or Android when you've used that in the field. So any of these files you can import. When you click import, you just need to find the file wherever you've saved it on your computer. So in this case, let's see, we have some sample projects, and where I want to go to is the children and happiness sample project, and this is what I sent you. And I would like to use stage 1. So stage 1 of the project, it is the same project that I showed you before, but this is now without the coding. So we can go to Children and Happiness Sample Project Stage 1. And you can open it. Now, when opening it for me, because I already have the project, I actually will override it. For you, it will be new. So now the project bundle is being imported. And I will just share the screen now.
Hello everyone. It seems we might have lost Dr. Vanessa. I'm sure she'll just try reconnect now. If you can just, oh, there she is. She's joining
Hello.
again.
I think the connection timed out for a moment. I don't know what happened. You still seem to be all here. All right. Just going to share the screen again and we'll just continue. All right. Okay. So so just opened up the Children and Happiness sample project stage 1. And we're looking at how to segment some data. So we talked about data segmentation before. A quotation is a segment of data that you create according to your research interest. So it can be a piece of text, a part of a picture, a clip from a video document. And what that data segmentation does, it facilitates for coding and reorganizing the information that you collected. Now, the most common way to segment your data when you start initially is line by line, sentence by sentence, but there are also other options. You could do it word by word, incident by incident. You can code for specific actors or specific parts of the process or specific times of day, etc. Now, the key is that fragmenting these narratives can prevent you from becoming so immersed in your respondents' worldviews that you accept them in large chunks without questioning them. So it helps you to refrain from superimposing preconceived ideas on the data and gives you the opportunity to compare data with data. So now, how do we do that? When you are inside any of your documents, and I'm going to open up a document here. So I'm going to use my navigator to open up a document here. And I, for example, have this PDF here. I'm going to open up. When I double click on it, the PDF is opening. And what you see here is I have the document here. And there is already, make it a little bit bigger, already a quotation here. So this is a data segment here. So this has been selected and this has been created as a data segment, and it has not been numbered data segment 1 of document 1, 1.1. Now, maybe there's another piece of this data that I also see is important. So I might be reading this and might say, okay, this sentence here is of importance to me and I want to cut it out. I want to cut it up so that I have that segment of data in a separate way. If I select the text, I can make it bigger or smaller by dragging and dropping. If I have it how I want to have it, I can go to the top left corner and create a free quotation. That means I create a segment of data that stands free, that is not connected to anything else. When I click that, I get the confirmation this free quotation is created. And in the margin area, you see that vertical line. So this is sort of like annotating. That is, or this is sort of like when you are with your marker and you're actually selecting part of the text and saying, okay, this is highlighted. This is important here. So you can all try that, select piece of the text and create a free quotation. And now we have quotation 1.3 here. Now this works in a PDF, but maybe there are also other types of documents, like I'm opening up a blog document here now that looks more like a Word document. I can change the size of the document and the margin area so that I have some space here. And I might start reading my data. I was happy before I had kids and I'm happy now. Okay, create a free quotation. I have a quotation here. However, the first year of motherhood was rough. Oh, that might be important information. So I can create a free quotation. And you see that now when I click on these quotations, it's highlighted in the text. Now for images, it works exactly the same. When I open up the images, so in this case, I open up document 6, I can just select part of the image and create a quotation for it. Or maybe I want to select this tower here, I can move it around a little bit. So in this way, I can segment my data and cut it up into pieces. Now, in case you're working with video or audio, you can select part of the timeline and also create a quotation from that. Once you've created a quotation, it's possible to write any comments on those quotations. If there's anything you want to comment on why this piece of text is important for you, what is going on here, how it is related. But the biggest reason why we create these quotations is because we want to code these segments of data. So that would be the next step. Once I have these quotations, I can actually create a code that I attach to these quotations. And those codes are labels or concepts attached to a certain data segments. Now, when you are creating those codes, you try to stay close to the data, to be generally, if you're working bottom up, open and spontaneous, focus on actions, and you keep your code short, simple, and precise. How do you attach a code to a quotation? There are different ways to do this. So one of the ways to do this is to right-click on the quotation and to apply a code. And I see you don't see this opening up here. All right, so what I want to do is I want to share my full screen so that you will be able to see this pop up as well, because I don't see it showing up here. So that means that I won't be able to see the chat, so I will stop intermittently and ask you if you have any questions. So let's do this like this. All right. So if there's anything that is not working for you or that you're not seeing, please give me a shout, because I won't be able to see the chat for now. So if I have a quotation here, if I right click on it, I will be able to apply a code. And I can choose from any code that is already existing, or I can write a new code. So in case I want to, this is happiness is a way of travel, not a destination. So this is maybe code for wisdom on happiness. So if I want to create this label, I put a plus, and what you will see now is that this quotation is now labeled with this code. And you see the green, excuse me, the green label on top of it. That is actually signifying that there is a this is a code and it's attached to this quotation. In a text document, it would work exactly the same. I have this PDF here. If I have a quotation, I can apply a code to it. So I right-clicked and I apply a code. And I can choose from any existing codes, or I can create a new code by writing it. So maybe this is about the United States. And I will see that in my margin area, I have a quotation and a code attached to it now. Right, so just want to check. Yeah. So is that working for people? Are you all right? So we have segmented different types of documents, and now we have attached codes to it. Now, in practice, what you generally would do when you're coding is that you do those 2 steps of segmenting the data and coding it at once. And this greatly speeds up your process. So let's open document 2 where we've not done any work yet. Oh, there's one code here. If you select part of the text and you go to the top left corner, you see an option next to creating free quotation to apply codes already. And this gives you the possibility to apply a code as well as create a quotation at the same time. So this is parent satisfaction. I've just read quickly the quotation, and this is about parent satisfaction. So I write that code. And what you see happening now is that the quotation as well as the code are created at once. So they are created at the same time. Can do that again. Select maybe this long sentence here. And on the top corner, on the top, say apply codes. And this is maybe, well, let me just choose one from the list. When I say plus, it will apply that code to this data segment. And it doesn't matter whether you're working again in images, it works exactly the same. I can select part of the image and apply the code and say, okay, this is about waves. And I will have this part of the image coded with waves. Now, what is important if you create these new codes is that you're actually creating a code definition for every code that you're creating, because those labels that you're creating, you want to be consistent in how you are applying them to the data segments. So whenever you create a new code, you also write a code definition. Now, where do you do that? You will do that in the code manager. So let me close all these documents up here now. So I use the little arrow, say close all. And I want to now go to my code manager to look at all those codes which I have created. Now, how do I get there? I am in the home tab and I will go to the code manager, which is the green icon, and click on it. So I have all my codes listed here now. And whenever I select a code, I can see here is already a comment that was created on the 3rd of June. And maybe this wisdom of happiness I've created just before. I can create a comment on it here now on the bottom. So this code is to collect all wise sayings with regard to happiness, something like this. Just making it up now. That would be a code definition. And once the code definition has been saved, you will see this little yellow sticky note again on the code there. Now I have code here. It states geographical location of the data, for example, is US. Okay. So what you want to have is that in your code list that you have here, you want all the codes to have a comment on them, because that comment is your code definition. You want all your codes to be defined. a little bit more about coding, because we have two approaches to coding. We have an inductive and a deductive approach. And sometimes people are using both of them at the same time. Now, deductive reasoning, it works from the more general to the more specific. And sometimes you can also informally call it a top-down approach. You might begin with thinking up a theory about a topic of interest, and then that narrows down to a more specific hypothesis that can be tested and narrowed down even further to observations to address this hypothesis. Now, that ultimately leads you to be able to test the hypothesis with specific data, and then you can find a confirmation or not of your original theory. Now, in Atlas TI, we would use free codes for that. Free codes are codes that are not attached to anything. So this means that you're working from the literature, and you have a set of concepts that is important to you, or maybe the supervisor or someone else in your research team has defined what kind of things you are going to look for in your data. When you want to put that in Atlas TI, you will create free codes. And when you're in the code manager, on the top left, you can find, of course, the place where you can make new items, and you can find the free codes there. Now, when you click on that, you can insert all the codes that are important. So in this case, I will just make an example with code 1, code 2, code 3. Every time I press the tab button, I get a new opening here. Code 5. Oh, yes. So you can create your whole code list here. Normally you give the codes, of course, names that help you know what they are about. So numbering codes is not very useful in practice. It is just to give an example of the codes that have been created. But this could be, for example, all sorts of environmental factors if you're doing research on the environment. Now, when you create these codes, you will see that they show up now in the code list. Code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you will be able now to use them to code specific pieces of text. So that would be the deductive approach. Now, the inductive reasoning, it works the other way around. It moves from specific observations to broader generalizations and to theories. So sometimes we call this like a bottom-up approach. And in this inductive reasoning, we begin with specific observations and measures, and then you start to detect maybe patterns or regularities and formulate a tentative hypothesis that you can explore. And finally, you can end up with developing some general conclusions or theories. And the example for this is grounded theory. In this case, we start with open coding. And this is what we have done before, that we are looking into a text. I'll just open up the blog again. We read it, maybe line by line, step by step, and then code it, creating codes along the way. Now, once you have created a functioning coding list, what you can do is you can open it up, for example, here in the navigator. And then when you are working, so when you're going through your text and you're selecting part of the text, you can drag and drop the relevant codes on the selection. So you select the text, move it a little bit, doesn't want to stay. Yes. And then drag and drop the relevant code on there. And in this way, you can code your whole document, like, for example, sentence by sentence. And whenever you need a new code, you select and you can choose apply code here. and create a new code as we have done before. Now, there are two other options in here when you're selecting part of the text. One of them is quick coding. And when you use quick coding, you attach the code that you've used last. So in this case, that was code 7. When I click quick coding here, quotation is created and code 7 is attached to it. The other option is in vivo coding, meaning that the text that you are selecting becomes the name of the code. So for example, here there's the Council of Contemporary Families. If I select that text and I choose in vivo coding, this will be coded with Council on Contemporary Families. Like this will be the name of the code now. When I look in my code manager, I can switch the tab like this. I can open the code manager here. I have that code Council of Contemporary Families created here. So this is the way in which you can code documents using different strategies. So you have deductive coding, you use free codes that you get from the outside. It's also possible in case you have an existing code book already, a code book being a series of codes with their definitions and sometimes their colors. You can also import that into Atlas TI. So when you go to the Import and Export tab, you can import a code book here. Maybe from an Excel spreadsheet or a QDC file. Maybe your supervisor or one of your colleagues has an existing set of codes that they want you to use or that you want to make use of. And you can import it here and you will get the whole code list as it was in the Atlas TI program or Excel sheet, and you'll get it here listed. And you can then use those codes to drag and drop them onto your text or onto your image or onto your video. All right, I want to check if there's any questions about this. How are you all doing? Is that working for you to code part of your data? All right, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, it's working. All right, that is very nice. Now for the last part of this session, I would like to give you some exercises. So let me just open up, as things had shut down, to open up the presentation and give you some exercises. I think I have them also here. All right. I'll just copy and paste them into the chat for you. Because with Atlas TI, one of the most important things is, so let me just paste them, exercises, day 1. Yes. So with Atlas TI, one of the most important things is that you're actually practicing with it, so that you are clicking yourself and going through all these motions, and because your body will remember how to do these things. So when you're only looking at it, it helps you. You start to know where to find things and how to do things, but when you're really doing it, you will remember. And when you're doing it with your own data and with your own work, you will get to know the program really. So this is why I'm giving you some exercises in the chat here. Um, and they are about exactly what we have done today. So to create a project, to comment on the project, to add the types of documents you work with, to create a geo document, to group your documents in the document manager, to create a free quotation in every document type, so that is a non-attached quotation, and to comment on it, and then to create several free codes and attach them to your free quotation. So that is the deductive approach that we were working on. And then to code one of your documents through in vivo coding and open coding. So that inductive approach that we just talked about now. Now, of course, don't forget to write code definitions for every code in the comment area. So when you're in your code manager. Just looking at the questions, the recording will be available. I think Okay, I see from Tobago that there will be load shedding scheduled for 12 o'clock. We're going to round off before that. But the recording will be made available by the postgraduate school, so that you will be able to look back at it again. Now we have a couple of minutes left. I just want to give you the opportunity to ask some questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now, so that you will be able to do the exercises this afternoon. And then tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we will go into more advanced coding strategies. So how to create a effective coding system, how to use auto coding and Atlas TI, and then we'll go into some simple data retrievals as well. So what can you get out of all this work that you've been doing when you've been coding? So are there any questions before you might go into load shedding at 12? Remember, if you need to find any help, from the home tab, there is this help option over here, and you will be able to access in the open help, you will be able to access the whole manual of Atlas TI and find anything in it that is useful. Of course, this manual is really, really huge. It's really like a book. Everything is in there. Um, but there's a good search function, so you will be able to find the things that you are needing. If you want something more concise, you can work with the quick tour. And as said, there is support available as well if you have any problems with the program. So what we have done today, just to summarize, we have been looking at the interface of Atlas TI with the different tabs. We looked at the 6 objects of Atlas TI, the main objects, how you set up a project, how you make backups, create a new project. And how you are working with your document, segmenting it into quotations, into little pieces of data. And then we had a start at coding. We looked at the different managers and how you can actually create groups. So we did that actually with the documents, but you can also create code groups, which we will be looking at tomorrow when we're going to look at how you can now create an effective coding system where you have different colors and different prefixes and different groups to be able to work with your data, and moving up that conceptual level, that you go from being very close to the data to more abstract ideas about the data. Don't forget to write comments on every single one of your codes, and in order to define them. And the navigator, just a little reminder, you can open up anything with the little arrows here. and close the navigator altogether. In case you need more space, you can open it up again under the Home tab under Navigator. Now, I hope this session was useful to you. And Odilille is writing, yeah, that she needs more practice. Yes, Atlas TI is really something that you need to practice and to work with the program in order to really get to it. So if you have any questions, we will discuss the questions at the start of the session tomorrow. So if there's anything that you weren't to replicate, that somehow you didn't remember and you weren't able to find the answer, we can go into that tomorrow morning, and we will answer all those questions. So before you go into load shedding, I would like to say goodbye to you for now. And I'm very happy to see you again tomorrow morning at 10. And we will continue with this course. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for your attention. And I hope to see you again tomorrow.